In this video, I'm going to take you on a trip to the Cursed City. So there's been a lot of talk about it, and it is here. The Cursed City box showed up on my doorstep a couple days ago, and this is not a full-blown unboxing. Like, this is the first time I've opened it. I've taken off the plastic, and I've rooted around amongst the components and things like that, just so I knew a little bit more about what I'm about to show you, and get some ideas by flipping through the books and stuff like that of like what's coming, you know, what things you can expect, what questions that hopefully you might have that I might be able to answer. Anyway, so yeah, this is the box, predominantly in black and red, which I enjoy. Big fan of the black and red over there. And so it's not as thick as I thought, honestly. I kind of thought it would be a lot taller, but it's very dense. It is very dense, but it's not as, it's, honestly, I think it's about the same size as the Blackstone Fortress box. And again, this is Warhammer Quest. So this is a game, if you're familiar with Blackstone Fortress, this is kind of along the same lines, cooperative, sort of board gamey to a little bit. It's a great, I mean, the concept of these Warhammer Quest games, they're great gateway games because they definitely straddle the fence between kind of board game and miniatures. And the reason that it straddles the fence into miniatures is because there's a lot of miniatures in here. There are about, I think, including fancy schmancy objective markers, about 60 different things in here. So here's your big vampire guy, if we can get him to light up. He comes on his own sprue, which may lead us to believe that down the road we might just be able to buy him separately. Don't know. I always kind of thought that was going to happen with Blackstone Fortress, that we were eventually going to see a bunch of those models come out separately, and we kind of never did. So I don't know why that is. But anyway, he's a cool model, and there's a whole bunch of bases in the bottom of this box too. So yeah, there's a lot of different sizes for a lot of different creatures. And then in some lighter colored plastic, we've got, this is definitely the big corpse eater ogre dude. And this guy looks like maybe he's more like a dwarfy sort of dude. There's just a bunch of different parts in here. It looks as if predominantly the heroes themselves are all in the lighter plastic, which is kind of a warm light gray, whereas the bad guys and the objectives and such are all in your standard kind of Games Workshop gray. The plastic is very sharp. Like, there's a lot of things going on here, a lot of detail. You definitely, if there was more chaos in this box, I think, you know, if it was a little bit more chaosy, you'd definitely run the risk of poking yourself. But there's a, you know, your witch hunter here has got a a gun that's got an underslung stake launcher, and I bet that's pretty pointy. Oh yeah, there it is. I'm going to be very honest. I'm very interested in the models. They are skinnier than I thought. There's a lot of very small little arrows and tiny little, like when we get to the skeletons, which I'm super jazzed about, they're the models that I'm most interested in this. Everything is slender and breakable, in my opinion. It's not it's not as thick as I thought. When I first saw this big corpse eater guy and saw this foot, I was like, are these in the wrong scale? These are still 28/32 millimeter scale, aren't they? But then I remembered he's an ogre, so he's bigger. He's not in the right scale, but he's in the right scale, if you know what I mean. So anyway, that's the main bad guy and the good guys. You've seen pictures of them probably online, and there you go. And then you get 3 other sprues. Like I said, a lot of, frankly, there's a lot of skinniness going on in here. Like I said, a lot of things that, like this little tiny rapier here, that little tiny skinny rapier sword, like that's the thing that you need to be very careful about when you're taking it out of the package. They're just kind of stacked on top of each other in here. And so when you're pulling it out, don't, you know, like, be careful. Don't just wrench on stuff, because you'll probably bust off a sword, a skeleton face, something like that, you know, and that's kind of a bummer. But again, tons and tons of great detail. Big, well, I don't know what that guy is. Big wolfy dudes. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to putting a lot of this together and building a bunch of it. Here's your big grave guy, bunch of animals and all kinds of stuff. There's just a lot of amazing looking sculpts in here. To be perfectly frank, it was the same thing with Blackstone Fortress. I bought Blackstone Fortress because I wanted the models. I knew I was probably unlikely to actually play the board game, but I knew that I wanted the models because I knew that they were, or I pretty much suspected that they were going to come out with kill team rules for the miniatures, which they did later on as a PDF update. There is also not a Warcry stats thingy in here. Unfortunately, I kind of was hoping they would launch with one, but they did not. There are stats in here for Age of Sigmar, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Here's some of our skeleton friends that we're looking for. Let me get these guys a bit out of the way so you can kind of see the background a little bit. But yeah, I mean, again, very skinny little spears and little, like that finger right there. This guy, can you guys see? Like this guy right here, he's like over that way. And I'm surprised it's not broken off already. It's just, you have to be careful, I think, with these because they are very, very, very slender. And now I have to figure out what to do with them to get them out of the way. Hang on a second. Okay, mission accomplished. So then you get this black piece of cardboard that helps to separate the pointy models from the rest of the stuff. It also has fun artwork on the back. So you could use that as a backdrop when you're taking pictures of your cool models, maybe. It's a little beat up, but you know, that's fine. And then inside, we have the rest of the stuff that's not miniatures. Like I said, bag of bases, a whole bunch of different sizes and things like that. Another bag of bases, which for reasons are in a different Ziploc bag. That's not a Ziploc bag, that is. I don't quite know why, but you know, there you are. So again, all the bases you're gonna need for the models, and that's good. There's also a big bag of a whole bunch of different dice. Standard white, kind of like, you know, plasticky type dice, white plastic dice. Black plastic dice, they're probably 12 millimeter size, I think, as opposed to the 16s, whereas these bigger ones that are non-standard, those are more 16 millimeter size. And then there's even some 8-siders and a 12-sider. Big fan of the 12-siders myself. A regular 12-sider, that's pretty cool as well. So yeah, a whole bunch of different dice that you're gonna need to play. They also are included. Then there's this big pack of cards and stuff. Here's Radukar, the wolf. And someone mentioned about this recently, and I think it's interesting. There's kind of, because this is Radukar the wolf empowered, and it's a little bit like in Warhammer, not Warhammer Quest, Warhammer Underworlds, where there are certain features on a character when you're playing Warhammer Underworlds. Maybe they take some damage, or maybe someone else dies, or something like that, which then you then flip that card over, and you now have them inspired, is usually what it's called for that game. And then it changes the stats, usually making them better, and it's something that you have to kind of plan for, and it's cool. Extra hidden base just stuck in here. I can't get it out. It's flipped over. I don't have any. There we go. So yeah, but all the other cards and all the other stuff, and I'm not going to go through all this. Some of it I don't want to go through because I don't want to maybe spoil stuff if you're into that kind of thing. On the bottom, underneath all these books, well, this is interesting too. There is, do not open until the final assault decapitation journey has been included. That sounds scary, the final assault decapitation journey. But anyways, it's got a cool wolf. And it is a special, you know, just for certain times in the game. I like that kind of stuff. It's sometimes known as like legacy stuff. Risk Legacy was one of the first games that did that, where there were certain things that would happen in the game, and then you'd have to open an envelope or put a sticker on the board and say that this, you know, has now happened, and that's always the way it is from now on as you play the game, and that kind of stuff. Some of that kind of stuff I think is interesting as well. So you got that in case of decapitation. We've got a card here for Cursed City, the book, the novel. And there's already an errata for the kind of dwarven dude here on how to build him to make it maybe more clear. Maybe there was some, I haven't tried to look through that part yet, so I don't know, but this is how you fix that. So I guess there's that, you know, which is good. And then there's a whole bunch of cardboard, obviously, because it is, like I said, kind of a board game. And there's a whole bunch of Ziploc bags so that you've got a lot of places to put all your cards and all that other junk. And all the different tokens and things you're going to punch out. Hundreds of tokens, probably. And then, of course, all the cool tiles for putting the rooms together as you go through the dungeon and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot coming in this box for $200. Well, $199 American is technically the price. It's 125 pounds, but it's $199 American. I don't remember what it is in euros. I haven't heard, unfortunately. So then there's this stuff. And we're going to stick to the War Scrolls for Age of Sigmar in just a second. But here is the instructions on how to put together all of our little friends here. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of stuff going on there. This is the guy that they had the errata for, so I'll have to sit and figure out exactly what was confusing about that. But there's just a ton of, like, that big bat guy is pretty cool. I mean, it's just, yeah, I'm really looking forward to, again, probably, I'm personally unlikely to play the game. We will see, but I definitely want the skeletons, a whole bunch. I want, basically, I want anybody who's going to be able to work in Warcry. I want them from this box so that I can use them into Warcry. Speaking of which, even though we don't know yet about Warcry specifically, there was something that came out on the Warhammer community website just recently that was like a little kind of mini narrative sort of thing that used some of these models in Warcry, but the actual just full-blown normal Warcry stats have not yet been released. But from reading that article, I have the suspicion that they will be eventually. That all being said, I'm going to start painting the skeletons from this box on Twitch. And I'm going to be doing it starting on Monday night. So Monday would be the 3rd, 4th, 5th of April, 7 p.m. Central. You catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/Tabletop Minions. Come by and watch, and I'll start painting the skeletons, and it'll be fun. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm all about skeletons. Again, these skeletons also are very slender. They're not like the skeletons you remember from like Tomb Kings or Vampire Counts and stuff like that. Like, those skeletons were the epitome of big boned, if you know what I mean. They were thick because you had to concern yourself with trying not to break them as you move them around and take them in and out of your transportation of choice. So these are prettier in that they are more to scale and they are slender and not, but just skeletons I think should be slender. A real chunky skeleton is a little weird. I mean, the OCR Bone Reapers, that's a different story. They're not exactly skeletons. But anyway, my point is, be careful with these, because these models have got a lot of little bits and hanging off parts and all kinds of things, and they're thin and skinny. And when you are cutting them off of the sprues, make sure to pay very close attention to the instructions and go from there. So then we get into, we've got a rule book and we've also got a quest book. And now these both are obviously full color, very fancy, to show you all the things, show you all the different types of models, the hero models, the hostile models, all that jazz, explains all the bits and everything. These rules are pretty much, in general, always very well written. So, and you even get a reference on the back. The quest book, I don't want to really go through here particularly, because there's a lot of things that I don't want to necessarily share. I want you to be able to, use them and play with them when you get them yourself. But this is the book that kind of goes through and explains all of the, the scenarios and then the special things that happen and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of interesting features in this game. One of them, because we're talking about vampires, is the difference between day and night cycle. Plastic. So this thing here, this, when it's going to become dark, and when it becomes dark, then that's when the vampires are, more vampire-y, let's just say that. And it's something that you have to kind of pay attention to in the rules and pay attention to during the game. It's not just something that randomly might happen. Like, oh, all of a sudden it got dark. That's weird. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's like the clock is ticking and you have to pay more attention to it. So I really think that's a cool concept, and I'd like to see more stuff like that, frankly, in game design, especially things that are supposed to be a little bit more narrative, like a game like this. Now, there's been a lot of talk online about the War Scrolls. These are the War Scrolls for the models that come in the box here, so you can use them in Age of Sigmar. Now, there are two main groups, obviously. You've got your Order folks, who are predominantly all cities of Sigmar, and you've got Captain Imelda, and you have the Elf Lady, I think. Nope, that's a guy, sorry. Jelson Derek, Brutog, Corpse Eater, that's the big guy. I don't want to hang out with him, I gotta be honest with you. But yeah, all those are in here, and they're all predominantly cities of Sigmar, so you can use them in here. These are all the stats and the stuff that you can use to play with them. And then there's a lovely centerfold thing. And then we go into the bad guys. Now, the thing that's interesting, again, same stuff, you've got information and all that, but when you get to the back page here, this is the points profiles for your pitched battles. When you're playing pitched battles, all the Order folks, you can take separately. I can take Brutog, Corpse Eater at 120. I can take Jelson Derek at 100 points. I can take Quel'Thas, the Exile, at 100 points. But the skeletons and zombies come in groups because they're battle line, which totally makes sense. And then everybody else you have to take kind of as one big chunk that costs 680 points. So these models must be taken as a set for 680 points, although taken as a set, each is a separate unit. So you can't, the Order folks, you can just take one of these people and drop them into your Cities of Sigmar army if you want to, but the Death folks are kind of almost like a little mini battalion as far as the leaders. Again, the zombies and the skeleton warriors, you just, use them as normal battle line troops, it's fine. But the rest of these folks kind of are a chunk, and I've been reading, keeping track of stuff online, and some people have been unhappy about that. Some people think that it's because of a, like the idea that if it's for resellers, like if I'm gonna buy it and part out all the bits, well, you can't just use one guy because they come in a chunk. If that's the case, I guess I wonder then why didn't they do it with Order? I don't know. But I just want people to know that, because it's something that if you're buying this directly to go into, bring it into Age of Sigmar, and you're going to build yourself a cool, Death army with the new folks, the whatever they're called, the Deadwalkers, I guess. Yeah, I don't know actually what they're called. Just as Death. See, like, watch Captain Halgrim here is Death, Skeleton, Death Rattle. So you'd have to use him in Death Rattle. We got Soul Blight. We've also got a bunch of different things. So I don't exactly know how these are all going to work. I feel like, I don't know, maybe allies. I'm not as up on my Age of Sigmar these days anymore. I kind of don't play the bigger army games anymore. I see myself using these models specifically, like I said, when they release them for Warcry. I'm super interested in using some of these death models for Warcry, because I think that's going to be a ton of fun. Even the Order ones, honestly. I'm starting to work on a Cities of Sigmar army, and I've got a bunch of Guard, free Guild, and whatnot. And I think that taking the Witch Hunter along with them as their leader, that would be a lot of fun. So yeah. Anyway, my point is that if you're buying these guys because you just want to play Age of Sigmar and you want these models for Age of Sigmar, understand that the Death group, all of the heroes that are basically not the skeletons or the zombies, are a chunk, 680 points, and you kind of have to use them all at once. So just keep that in mind. So to be very clear, this is a game that is a gateway game between board games and miniatures games. You can use the miniatures in Age of Sigmar and probably soon to be Warcry, but otherwise it is a cooperative game designed to be played in a kind of board game situation. And because of that, if you're wondering, well, geez, it's awfully expensive for all those models, well, there's a full-blown game in here as well. So there are people that are going to buy it, kind of like they did with Pariah Nexus, where they're just going to buy it because they want the models. This is, in my opinion, a better deal if you're just going that route, because you're paying $199 for 50 to 60 models, whereas you were paying 160 or whatever for Pariah Nexus for 12. So, it's kind of up to you. I've had people ask me, like, is this like an expansion to Age of Sigmar, that kind of thing? But again, like I said, this is, it has Age of Sigmar stuff in it you could use, but otherwise it is its own standalone, Warhammer Quest style game. So if you like cooperative games, if you like spooky ooky vampires and witch hunters and skeletons and very slender models that are very, very, very nice looking, then you may want to look at getting it. Now, from what I understand, the other issue is that it's going to be in some probably limited supply, again, because of COVID, frankly, and all that kind of stuff. So you may want to reach out to your local game shop if you're going to be trying to do that and see about pre-ordering. From what I understand, local game shops have got a limited number that they can order, so you may want to reach out maybe potentially as soon as you get done watching this video and say, hey, if you're getting some, I want one, I will pay you up front, or whatever your deal is with your local game shop. If you're going to be trying to go online, it's going to be maybe a little difficult, I think, because I have a suspicion that Games Workshop will sell out of these pretty quickly. But again, like I understand, they're also in distribution, so hopefully check out your friendly local game store, which is also local, and give them a ring and see if you can get one if you're interested. Whether you're interested in it for the game, or whether you're interested for the models, or whether you're interested in using those models in Age of Sigmar, or hopefully Warcry. Hopefully. I'm just looking forward to the skeletons, frankly. I'm going to paint them on Monday, and I'm looking forward to it.